Russia's military machine is on the move, and this week it wants the world to see it. The Russian Ministry of Defense has released footage showing columns of Yar's intercontinental ballistic missile launchers rolling through open-terrain warships cutting through the Pacific and northern seas, submarines moving in formation beneath aerial surveillance, and MiG-31 fighter jets screaming off runways. The images are stark, deliberate, and timed for maximum strategic effect. From May 19 to 21, Russia launched one of its largest nuclear force exercises in years, a 3-day drill mobilizing more than 64,000 troops, strategic missile forces, warships, submarines, and long-range aviation. The exercise is framed by Moscow as a test of combat readiness under conditions of what it calls a threat of aggression. From May 19th to 2026, the armed forces of the Russian Federation are conducting an exercise on the preparation and use of nuclear forces in the event of a threat of aggression, the Russian Defense Ministry said in an official statement. But this is not Russia's show alone. Military units in Belarus have begun joint training exercises with Russia on nuclear weapons combat, the Belarusian Ministry of Defense announced. The announcement triggered immediate alarm from Ukraine and NATO allies, drawing sharp international condemnation at a moment when tensions across Eastern Europe are already running dangerously high. During the exercise, it is planned to practice issues related to the delivery of nuclear munitions and preparation of their use in cooperation with the Russian side, the Belarusian Defense Ministry said. It insisted that the exercise is not directed against third countries and does not pose a threat to security in the region, a line that has done little to reassure its neighbors. The primary focus of the drills, according to Minsk, is practicing concealment measures, long-distance movements, and calculating the deployment of forces and assets, including testing the military's readiness to move and deploy nuclear weapons from unplanned launch sites. The footage released by Moscow tells that story clearly. KZ, Yar's missile launchers, each one capable of delivering a nuclear warhead thousands of kilometers away, are seen moving across open ground in convoy. Pacific Fleet submarines surface and dive in formation. The frigate Admiral Gorshkov and the missile cruiser Marshal Ustinov sail with purpose through Northern Fleet waters. MiG-31 interceptor jets, long the backbone of Russia's airborne nuclear delivery capability, take off from tarmacs and climb into the sky. The scale is hard to ignore. The drills involve more than 65,000 troops, around 7,800 military vehicles and weapon systems, over 200 missile launchers, 140 aircraft, and 73 surface warships. Also involved are 13 submarines, including 8 strategic nuclear submarines. What gives these exercises an added and historically significant dimension is the deliberate integration of Belarus into Russia's nuclear command structure. Russia has stationed its Oreshnik intermediate-range ballistic missile in Belarus since 2025, following an agreement made 2 years earlier, a system capable of delivering either conventional or nuclear warheads. President Vladimir Putin has claimed that Oreshnik's multiple warheads plunge at speeds of up to Mach 10 cannot be intercepted, and that several such missiles used in a conventional strike could be as devastating as a nuclear attack. The timing of these exercises is no accident. The new START arms control treaty between Russia and the United States formally expired in February 2026, ending the last remaining bilateral restrictions on the deployment of strategic nuclear arsenals by the two countries. With that framework gone, both sides are no longer bound by limits on nuclear warheads or delivery systems, and Russia appears intent on making that point visibly and loudly. The exercises also follow a successful Sarmat ICBM test launch on May 12, just 1 week prior, after a series of earlier failures, including a silo-destroying misfire in September 2024. Putin personally confirmed the test success and said the Sarmat, sometimes referred to in Western media as Satan 10, would be placed on combat duty by the end of the year. Ukraine's response has been unambiguous. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has warned Belarus repeatedly against allowing itself to be pulled deeper into Russia's war. Zelensky said that Moscow is intensifying efforts to pressure Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko into taking a more direct role in the conflict, and that Kyiv possesses details of conversations between the Russian and Belarusian leadership. Ukraine's foreign ministry condemned the drills, saying that the deployment of tactical weapons in Belarus constituted an unprecedented challenge to global security. By turning Belarus into its nuclear staging ground near NATO borders, the Kremlin is de facto leg, itemizing the proliferation of nuclear weapons worldwide and setting a dangerous precedent for other authoritarian regimes. The ministry said the Kremlin has shown no sign of backing down. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov dismissed Kyiv's concerns, calling them nothing more than an attempt to further inflame tensions in order to prolong the war. For Belarusians themselves, the mood is more complex. Belarusian opposition leader Svietlana Tsikhanouskaya, who operates in exile, offered a sharp rebuke of her country's leader. Lukashenko has turned Belarus into a platform for Russian threats. But Belarusians don't need these weapons, she told the Associated Press. Only a free Belarus will become a source of security, not nuclear blackmail. In Europe, analysts note that these exercises are part of a pre-approved schedule dating back to 2025, though the timing may have been moved forward from June to May. Some experts describe the Kremlin's current posture as another round of nuclears, rattling a pattern Ukrainians have grown grimly familiar with since 2022. Belarusian authorities characterize the maneuvers as exclusively defensive and aimed at deterring potential aggression, while critics view them as a dangerous provocation that further destabilizes the European security architecture. What is undeniable is the message being sent. The images from Russia's defense ministry, the slow, deliberate roll of nuclear launchers, the submarines gliding beneath open skies, the warships at combat stations are not accidental. They are a carefully constructed display of capability and intent released to an audience far beyond Russia's own borders. What makes this moment particularly consequential is the broader context in which these drills are unfolding. The exercises were announced just hours before President Putin departed for a two-day visit to China, a trip widely seen as an effort to deepen strategic and economic ties between Moscow and Beijing at a time when Russia finds itself increasingly isolated from the West. The optics are deliberate nuclear muscle flexing at home, diplomatic outreach eastward. Together, they paint the picture of a Russia that is recalibrating its global posture, not retreating, not negotiating, but doubling down. Whether that posture ultimately forces the West to the table or pushes the world closer to the edge of something far more dangerous remains the defining question of this moment. Belarus shares borders with Ukraine and NATO members Poland, Latvia, and Lithuania, a geographic reality that transforms every missile launcher on Belarusian soil into a direct threat aimed at the heart of the Western alliance. For NATO's eastern flank, these are not abstract war games happening in some distant theater. They are rehearsals taking place in the backyard. Alliance defense planners have spent the past several years quietly reinforcing troop deployments across Poland and the Baltic states precisely because of this toolless, and yet no amount of repositioning fully neutralizes the anxiety that comes with watching a nuclear-armed neighbor run drills on how to deploy those weapons faster from more locations with less warning than ever before. That is the quiet terror embedded in these images, not the spectacle of the missiles themselves, but the cold, methodical efficiency with which Russia and Belarus are learning to use them. The world is watching, and Moscow knows it.